There is something deeply unsettling about a story that doesn't end. You reach the final page or the last minute of a film, and instead of resolution, you're met with a lingering silence. No twist, no redemption, no curtain call, just nothing. It's not that the author forgot, or the camera broke, or the pen ran dry. It's that the story refuses to close. And that refusal, that haunting pause, echoes louder than any dramatic finale. Why do unfinished stories haunt us more than finished ones? The answer lies somewhere between the human mind's insatiable hunger for completion and the imagination's wild dance in the absence of boundaries. Our brains are hardwired for patterns. We want beginnings, middles, and ends. We crave the final answer, the killer's identity, the hero's fate, the lover's reunion or heartbreak. When that closure is denied, it triggers something primal. We are left dangling in a space where possibility stretches endlessly, and that is both terrifying and beautiful. Take a moment and remember the last time you encountered an unfinished story. A movie that ended on a cliffhanger, a novel missing its last chapter, a show canceled just before the final season. The questions it left behind didn't fade with time. Instead, they grew louder. What happened next? Did the protagonist survive? Was the villain truly defeated? Or worse, was the real villain never revealed? These gaps don't disappear. They morph into ghosts that follow us, whispering their endless what-ifs. Kafka's The Castle. The endless climb in the world of literature. Some of the greatest authors left their masterpieces incomplete not by choice but by death. Franz Kafka, plagued by illness and existential dread, never finished his novel The Castle. The protagonist, Kay, is endlessly trying to gain access to the mysterious authorities of a village governed by a shadowy bureaucracy. He never reaches them. Kafka died before he could write an ending, leaving Kay's journey as endless and futile as life itself. But here's the strange part. Many argue that it was never meant to end, that its incompleteness was its message. In real life, we rarely get closure. Bureaucracies remain faceless. Journeys are endless. Sometimes the castle remains forever out of reach. Dickens' The Mystery of Edwin Drood, the unsolved whodunit. Then there's Charles Dickens and his final unfinished novel, The Mystery of Edwin Drood. He died halfway through the tale, leaving generations of readers debating, who killed Edwin? Was he even dead? Could Dickens have twisted the narrative at the last moment? Scholars, fans, and even AI programs have tried to craft endings based on his previous work, but none feel right, because the truth is, no one will ever know what Dickens had in mind. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the true mystery isn't who killed Edwin Drood, but how a missing ending can hold more weight than 100 resolved ones. It invites participation. It begs us to imagine, to speculate, to engage. Unfinished stories are like broken clocks that still tick. They disrupt our perception of time and narrative. They echo our own interrupted plans, unresolved feelings, and dreams left hanging in the space between hope and reality. But there's another side to this. An unfinished story is not necessarily incomplete. Sometimes the absence of an ending is the most powerful form of storytelling. It's a mirror held up to our own fragmented lives. We don't live with neat arcs. Our stories stop and start with no warning. We change directions. We get lost. We leave sentences hanging. Sometimes we disappear from someone else's. Story without notice. Lost films. The vanishing reels of silent cinema. Consider the lost films of early cinema. Thousands of reels have vanished over the decades, either destroyed in fires or lost in forgotten vaults. Some were halfway through production. Others premiered once and were never seen again. Silent films with titles like London After Midnight or The Mountain Eagle are now myths. Only stills remain. Historians can guess the plots, reconstruct fragments, but the full picture is gone forever. Yet these films hold a strange power because their mystery invites a more personal version of storytelling. You imagine what could have been, and that imagined version becomes your own. Firefly, a space opera cut short in modern pop culture. Canceled TV shows carry the same haunting energy. Firefly, for example, ended after just one season. The narrative. Arcs were barely formed, and yet fans still speak of it with reverence and heartbreak. Why? Because its potential was palpable. Its death felt unjust. The world it built was too rich to collapse in silence, so fans kept it alive through forums, fan fiction, and revival campaigns. They gave it an afterlife. Folklore and oral legends. Tales without tidy endings. This idea that stories don't need to end to live goes against every instinct we have about narrative structure, yet it persists. Countless threads of fiction. Folklore and myth remain open-ended. Urban legends that trail off just before the climax. Ancient myths where gods vanish mid-sentence. Oral traditions passed down from generation to generation, each teller adding their own ending, withholding it entirely. Real life. The cliffhangers we live. The truth is, we live in unfinished stories every day. The conversation you never had. The letter you never sent. The dream you abandoned halfway through. Each of these moments waits a cliffhanger. Each one echoes with the same haunting silence as an unwritten final page. And perhaps that's why we're drawn to unfinished tales, not because they're incomplete, but because they reflect something innately human, something real, something honest. They are not broken. They are breathing, open, unresolved, eternal. There's a philosophical theory that suggests stories don't end until they are forgotten, that a narrative once told continues to live as long as someone remembers it, even if the ending is lost. So an unfinished story, in this sense, is immortal, because its very incompletion demands remembrance. You can't forget what still demands an ending. In a way, this turns unfinished stories into something sacred. They are not just tales left hanging, they are invitations. They call upon us to finish them, or at the very least to sit with the discomfort of not knowing. And in doing so, they reveal more about ourselves than any polished ending ever could. Unfinished stories challenge the authority of the storyteller. They shift the power back to the audience. When a story ends, it says, "This is the truth." When it doesn't, it whispers, "What do you believe?" That's the real secret. That's why they haunt us. We are all, in our own ways, unfinished stories. And maybe we're not meant to end either. Maybe our lives, like the tales we cherish, are meant to be lived, not completed. So the next time you find yourself frustrated by an unresolved plot or a story that fades to black without answers, pause. Listen to the silence. Feel the tension. In the unspoken, let it echo. Because maybe that's the ending. It's not a period, but a breath. One that reminds you. Some stories were never meant to end.